This seems to be information that society could benefit from. But how has this vital knowledge managed to fly under radars for so long? Why are these issues not making their way to the forefront of concern in our news?
So a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the news stations are going to cover things in the order of importance. But in reality, they cover them in the order of ratings. So if Justin Bieber's going to get the best ratings, they're going to go first.
Congresswoman, let me interrupt you just for a moment. We've got some breaking news out of Miami. Stand by, if you will. Right now in Miami, Justin Bieber has been arrested on a number of charges.
You got to sell whatever it is that wants to advertise on your show. And if your show is getting shitty ratings, they're going to replace you with a chick with big tits.
Hey, starting the news off tonight, a motherfucker killed 3 people, and we got my guy Hal Fishman standing outside right now. Hal, what's going on? Yeah, the nigga shot 3 people and blah, blah, blah. That's more attractive.
Yeah, I don't watch the news. The news is fucking depressing. They pick the worst shit to follow for a long-ass amount of time.
You think they give a fuck if Barack Obama was born in Kenya? They do if it's a good story, because it means that 2 million people are going to tune in instead of 600,000. And then you get people come out and say, well, what about nuclear bombs? That's a good point. We'll be back after this. They're going to be able to sell advertisement for X amount of money instead of W.
That kind of shit happens every day, all day. It's just a matter of which one do they want to put the most attention on.
They're skydiving cats.
I believe I can fly.
I can reassure all cat lovers that the cats have not been skydiving for real.
In all that froth, I think serious debate around key policy issues often gets lost.
That's the problem with current affairs. You forget about what's important. You allow the agenda to be decided by superficial information.
Everybody cares about the advertisers. They care a tremendous amount. If you're going to do a story that affects the advertisers, you will get a call from management. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do the story, although there is heavy pressure to shift priorities within the story.
It's fucking ridiculous. Putting makeup on and pretending they're not reading off a script that's corporate approved. They have a very specific set of parameters that they're supposed to fall into.
It's okay. You can admit it if you've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
Well, it's okay. You can admit it if you have bought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay. You can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
Originally, when TV first started, news was seen as something that was a public service so that you inform the American people. The deal was, you give us news and we give you the public airwaves. And then at some point along the lines, the TV stations forgot that they weren't supposed to make money off of news. And then a second thing kicked in that's really important. They realized that whenever they did investigative reporting, they would uncover something that the government was doing wrong, and it'd be a giant hassle.
You're supposed to question authority as a journalist. That's the whole point of the media. If you don't question authority, then what the hell is the point? CNN just got rid of its investigative team.
When I was at MSNBC, I looked for an investigative reporter to do some of the stories that I wanted to cover, and they said there isn't one in the building. So I got this amazing speech from the head of the network who said, look, outsiders are really cool. They wear leather jackets and they ride motorcycles. He said, but we're insiders here at NBC. We're part of the establishment and you have to act like it. He was telling me that he had just gone to Washington and they were not happy with my tone.
Do you think all these corporations and rich folks are spending money on politics because it's not good for business? No, obviously they think it's a great investment for them.
I was challenging the Republicans and the Democrats too much.
How about we didn't go into that dumbass war in Iraq and waste $1 trillion when we found 0 weapons of mass destruction? You flushed that down the toilet.
Social Security,
and now
not
you're
your
talking
politics.
about robbing people's Social Security. That is outrageous.
No, not your contempt for America. We're talking about Social Security. Stick
Contempt
to the
for
topic.
America?
What are you going to do about Social Security?
4,400 American lives in Iraq.
You have a
You have
shortfall.
contempt for America.
I remember taking several guests to task, saying all of our politicians are systematically corrupt. They get legalized bribes, which we call donations. We've forgotten that they're in essence just bribes. Now, who's going to give you money for nothing? No one, right? They're going to give you money so that you do them a favor. Every time I would point that out, there'd again be a call from management like, hey, we're not saying you can't do that. On the other hand, if you'd like to keep the 6 o'clock slot. But in that one meeting that I had with the head of the network, it was no longer implicit. It was explicit. And he said, this is the reality, and you either get back in line or we go in a different direction. If anything, I went harder after the establishment after that.
The banks, they sucked so much money out of the system that we had one of the largest economic crashes of all time. And they're not even done yet.
And then a couple of months later, they called me in and they're like, apparently you didn't get it. So you were at 6 o'clock. We're moving you from 6 o'clock to the weekends. We're going to pay you a ton of money. So hush up. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. And I didn't take the weekend job. And I went back to do the Young Turks Online.
We have 3 branches of government, and those 3 branches are supposed to be part of the checks and balances that make the government work. The media and journalists are a huge part of that. I mean, you think Americans are complacent now? They'll be even more complacent if they're not given the information they need to be politically active.
Drama works on television. Now, in the world of politics, the soap opera is Democrats versus Republicans. It's not who's right in terms of the policies or ideology. What is easy is, he said this, she said that. Isn't that amazing? Look at the Democrats and Republicans. Oh, they're always fighting. Oh, now look at this. The Republicans are fighting amongst themselves. Catfights sell.
Which is why you have the red team and the blue team, you know, all over the world. It's red team, blue team.
And they have these rigid ideologies that are associated with these teams, and they just run with it.
Find a place where you are surrounded by like-minded people, and the best way to find those people is you should probably look at the maps on how counties voted.
We think it's a bunch of ideas about how the world works and how we could make it better. Sorry, that's not really what it is. Ideas are a badge of identity. They're a badge of identity for a subculture. It's my group versus your group. And I will make damn sure that my representative represents my badge of identity, my group's supposed ideas, the ones that represent my group's uniform, not your group's uniform.
And there's a lot of seemingly intelligent people that have ridiculous ideas that are cleverly worded in a nice, flowing and confident way that makes you think that what they're saying makes sense.
A lot of work gets done on tobacco, whereas drugs are pretty much specifically just to get high. It's not, I'm
But a lot of
enjoying
people
the smell
drink
of this
to get
marijuana.
high.
Yeah, but that's more of a subsidiary point.
People are not openly discussing anything, they're just defending points of view. And in defending points of view, they're defending their egos.
Which means they're expressing the ideas that they think others want to hear. Which means they're not thinking.
So you can present the facts to people, but the facts won't penetrate because it's not about facts, it's about opinions that they have to hold on to in order to feel okay about themselves.
Potheads that I knew at that time, when they said, hey, bro, hey, bro, what's that? What's going on? Every one of them are brain dead. It's fact. Everyone that I know in my long history of life, everyone that was a pot smoker, their brains are defunctated.
Fox News, as we've known for a long time, does Republican propaganda. Unfortunately, MSNBC has now come to largely do Democratic propaganda. CNN does propaganda for both. They say the Republicans said this and the Democrats said that. Now, what's the truth? Who cares? My job is just to tell you what the latest catfight is.
It creates this partisan division in the country where people feel like, I have to root for my team regardless of what they do.
It's sometimes hard to see contradictions that find their way into politics. Inconsistencies with politicians tend to get lost in a mass amount of information that now finds its way to our attention. In some cases, these contradictions sit right in front of our face.
When you look at the Obama website where they were looking for information, what is important to you? What do you want to see us do?
I have to say that there was one question that was voted on that ranked fairly high, and that was whether legalizing marijuana would improve the economy and job creation. And I don't know what this says about the online audience, but...
And he goes, oh, I don't know what that says about this group. What it says about this group is they like pot. Why don't you explain with me what's wrong with the idea that people want you to make it so that someone doesn't get locked in a fucking cage for a forbidden plant?
Yeah, I did it. I got away with it. Too bad you're not. So move on to the next question.